All right. Hello and welcome to Life Beyond Limits and How to Live with Infinite Possibilities. Just think how many of you are experiencing limitations and how does that feel? And how would you like to know how to access infinite possibilities and live beyond limits? We are going through this huge shift in consciousness, and some of us are feeling this amazing expansion, but what we're feeling before that, and most of us are feeling, is the incredible limitation. So it's almost like the opposite. We're feeling the limitations crowding in on us, even though we know that there's something bigger than that. And people are, catching up in varying ways and speeds, but reality is different now, and how you play with energy is different now, and it's even different than the way things were before, even just a short while ago. I was talking to my husband yesterday, and my husband is totally different from me, and he's got a very rigorous spiritual practice, but he's also really kind of a nerdy kind of guy. And so it's very interesting to me when he starts to pop up with things that are just like, well, that's how I'm feeling. That's my paradigm. That's what I know. So the way he was expressing it is that he was feeling like that we were all going through like a software upgrade, or that things were being recoded. And I was like, this is what it feels like. It feels like we are collectively going through a huge reorganization of consciousness, of reality, and we're having these varying reactions to it. So an example that I use is if this were an online video game, and just imagine all the users in the world are online playing this virtual reality game, and suddenly you get the feeling that there's an upgrade going on. It's like working on your computer and things start to be kind of glitchy, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Why didn't anybody tell me about this? Why didn't I get the upgrade notice? And it's not that things like close off, but it's more like the shifting is happening. And if you're holding on to the old ways of doing it, I really liked the last version of Windows or whatever Apple puts out. I really like the last version. Well, then that's going to feel even more uncomfortable. And what may show up in your life also are the bugs and the glitches going along with this upgrade that's happening. So from a bigger, broader perspective is that it's an increase of consciousness coming into form. There is greater light coming into the world, and it is revealing what is it's revealing what is not working. It's revealing those bugs and glitches. It's revealing those things that are dense and dysfunctional, out of date. I mean, it's really shining light. If you just look out in the world today, it's also really shining light on old ways of treating people or viewing people that are not acceptable. Not that it was ever acceptable, but there was a collective acceptance of it. So those things are in the process of disintegrating because this greater light is being shone on it. And we are feeling that light more, but the other thing about that is that we're feeling that light within us more, and it's really giving more of a sense of internal power, because we are that consciousness. So some of this is a shift in identity, a shift in awareness of who we fundamentally are. And it's giving this more internal sense of power, which doesn't make any sense when our external world feels so encroaching, makes us feel more powerless. So it feels a lot like everything that we've ever identified with as solid and real is being called into question, including aspects of ourselves, our identity, and those things are breaking down and transforming as we actually become our greater being, our infinite being. And here's the thing. Now is the time to step into this consciousness shift. Now is the time to be living beyond our limitations. Now is the time to be operating with full consciousness so that we can live with these infinite possibilities. Now, most of you know who I am. I am a born light bringer, and I've been an energy worker. I started off as a clairvoyant reader and a healer 35 years ago. I've been a spiritual teacher for 35 years. I've been a certified professional coach since 2000. But I originally came from a very conservative and religious background. So I totally understand the leap of faith, that this paradigm shift is happening when your worldview disintegrates. And so then also there's a process of regaining cohesion after that. So I went through all of that in my early years when I went to become so alternative. But then I went through it again when in 2006, when my own practice went through a breakdown and a breakthrough. So we've been actually going through this transformation in waves, and we're collectively accelerating to this new vibratory level. So when my practice went through this breakdown and breakthrough, it was very disorienting. It was very uncomfortable. I was my ego, I was used to being an expert in the field that I worked in. And suddenly I was propelled back to being a beginner. And what I had to learn to do was I had to learn to upgrade my techniques to be able to navigate differently. So all the things that I felt that I had perfected and I was really, really good at suddenly became the opposite. So we're finding this, and for me, this happened to me on an energetic level, but we're finding this happen throughout the world in wherever you are particularly attached, wherever you particularly feel, that you've got a handle on and that you're good at. Suddenly you're being called on to do it differently. And it's very, very uncomfortable. The way it's manifesting for people is in different ways. You might have been rigorously one political party and suddenly that's gone out the window and well, what's left? You don't like the other side. What does that mean? This has happened to several people I know who were lawyers. So something about being lawyers. I mean, and they achieved a lot in their field. And you just think of what it takes to go through law school, and then to achieve a successful practice. And you're really on top of things. You're really accomplished with your intellect, and suddenly your heart starts yearning to be a Reiki master. And that, what do I do with that yearning? What do I do with that desire? When my whole practice and paying for law school and all those sorts of things, but that is actually what is happening to a lot of people in different ways. So that was an example of somebody's career seemingly disintegrating because they were really called forth. Their inner purpose was to live beyond that structure and limitations that they thought that made them successful, to being who they really are. So what transformed with that is that they found their entire life to becoming an energy worker instead, and have greater happiness and satisfaction inside. So some people might be experiencing these limitations in different ways. So being dissatisfied with your current path is an example of bumping up against that limitation. Some people might be already in the process of this disintegrating, and their world has already dissolved into a weird kind of crazy quilt. Your soul is longing to do something more meaningful, and feeling crazy to quit your secure job. Some people are waiting until they retire. They keep postponing their dreams. And that is a form of limitation too. Oh, you can't live your dream now. You have to wait until you retire. Maybe you want to fulfill your calling and then feel vague about what that is. Vagueness is actually an interesting form of limitation as well. It's like being socked in with a fog, under the cloud cover, not being able to be in touch with the details of your life. The feeling of not knowing how to do something. And I'm going to contradict myself here, because whenever I start talking about consciousness in this realm, in this world, which is one of duality, one of polarity, one of restrictions, there we bump up against this not knowing how to do things, and not feeling capable, not feeling powerful enough. And all of those are examples of living in this world kind of as the character in your game, as your avatar in your game, using the online game example. When you access yourself as consciousness, then you have access to the entire cosmic internet. You actually really know that you are the cosmic internet. And so you know how to do something. You infinitely have that information. I'm gonna put a pause on that, because I'm going way ahead of myself. So one of the things I'm going to be talking about today is what it takes to consciously create change in your life, and how to remember or discover who you essentially are and why you are here, and living life from the expanded perspective of consciousness. You can consciously create change in your life, and it can happen very, very quickly. So in the old paradigm, it used to take a long time to accomplish something, and it has slowly been getting faster and faster and faster. So, back in the 1890s, if you signed up for therapy with Freud, you were going to be in therapy for the rest of your life. It was going to take decades and decades and decades to peel away the layers. And things like that have been accelerating, where, you can have a really complete course of therapy in 3 months. And it's not so much about excavating and peeling away the layers anymore either. It's more about getting in touch with who you really are, stepping into that new reality, which is not stepping away from something, but stepping into something new. It is about operating at this new level of consciousness, and there are some simple ways for navigating the world now. I call them consciousness techniques, and even the term technique might be a misnomer, because one of the other thing that doesn't work in this new reality that I found is trying to compartmentalize things or make it into a system, making it into a replicable system. Okay, if I do the same thing every day at the exact same time, it's going to produce the same kind of result, and it's going to build up to that result. That's a very old paradigm way of creating reality. And there's even an aspect of law of attraction that is about creating your reality that way. And I'm doing this gesture because I'm thinking about the process of 3D printers. You watch a 3D printer, and it is, spewing out the cement to create a building in the matter of hours. It is replicating, a design for a motorcycle helmet. And when we use law of attraction techniques that way, it has this process of creating layer upon layer upon layer to manifest something into form. The thing about that is that when we're doing it from the level of our mind, we are creating reality with all the aspects that our mind contains, which is also the doubts, the disbeliefs, and it creates glitches and loopholes in the reality. So what you've got is the structure that you've created through repetitive thought, positive visualization, reprogramming yourself. And it's going to have these little air bubbles and these little glitches to the program. It is now possible to create instantaneous change, and it's not like get rich quick scheme or trading something for another, because all of that you can just see, feel, or hear that it has negativity built into it. But it is just stepping into the new reality, and all of that just dissipates. It is operating from a higher awareness that then creates results beyond what you can possibly imagine. So what is infinite possibilities? And what reality really is when you experience it as consciousness is, and I'm getting ahead of myself again too. So when you start to experience reality as consciousness, as the essence of who you are, everything becomes possible. It suddenly wakes you up to that you have infinite possibilities, and it isn't a matter of just waking up to that you have choice. I'm at choice whether I do this or do that. And still there's an aspect of that coming from your mind or your personality. Whereas in consciousness, it becomes a playground. It becomes like a kid in a candy store of all possible things to taste or try. It's coming from this open, expanded awareness where things are fun to experience. So that's why the systems, when you're working from a systems perspective, that is still your mind wanting to control things. And when you're coming from a consciousness perspective, it's like, well, I'll try this, or I'll try that, or I'll do this. And it opens you up to a greater realm of possibilities and experiences to have. Somebody asked me how life changes, and there's like a little concern, do we turn into Eckhart Tolle or Byron Katie? And I was thinking, yeah, Eckhart Tolle he's a really interesting guy, but I think he'd be really hard to live with. And it's a little scary to, Byron Katie is like so in your face about confronting every thought. And I love them both, and they're both great examples of people who have gone through this consciousness shift into living in a new way in reality. So you're not going to instantaneously, like your entire family rejects you, your life falls apart, and it's all a total mess, and then you step out fancy free. There's a gentle unfolding that happens when you work as consciousness. I find there's a gentle reorganization of things coming into cohesion. It means that when you let go of the old and you step into the new, it's a wonderful and joyful experience, and everything that was feeling limiting, restricting, uncomfortable, bad before, it just unfolds into being better. People change personalities, circumstances shift so that they're going in your favor. So I want to let folks know that, there's only so much I can cram into this hour, and I'm going to be sharing a couple of really key techniques so that you do have something to take away with you here. But behind that, there is also, I have offering to you a whole course to take for this, so that you have much more to work with. So for instance, if there's a whole treasure chest that you can have to be available, that you can play with, that helps you really, reinforces and helps you really step into this reality. And I'm going to give you a couple of tools to take that are from the first lessons of this, so that you get to come away with something really valuable. So before we finish today, I'll let you know the details for that. So the problem is, and the problem with everything, experiencing everything is limitation. Everybody is feeling that way. And the problem is because we're all born as these little chubby babies, and we're seen as blank slates to be written on, or lumps of clay to be molded, or we're seen as our bodies. And it's like, well, that body doesn't know anything. It doesn't know how to roll over yet. It does nothing but cry and poop and pee. And we're not seen as the infinite being that we are. And each one of us is consciousness. Each one of us is infinite knowledge and awareness. We're just in a little container that doesn't know how to roll over yet. But we are actually treasure chests of information that we bring in. We are so much more than our physical form. And so we start off as disconnected from the essence of who we really are. What would it be like if we'd been acknowledged, validated, and recognized? Now, what would it be like now if you are acknowledged, validated, and recognized as whole and capable? And that whatever dilemma that you're dealing with, within you, you have the resources to resolve it, to transform it. This planet is a dichotomy. It is a planet of opposites. You can actually hold two completely opposing truths. It's crazy, but it's crazy, but we're actually seeing evidence of that. And the duality of this is becoming stronger and stronger as we increase in awareness. I describe it as a hologram, a little bit like in Star Trek: The Next Generation, that we are, like when you step into the holodeck, it becomes any kind of reality that you have imagined into the system. So it's a holographic reality, and I've got to come up with maybe a better term for that, but it works really well for me. And everything that you see, and pretty much everything that you imagine that's within this physical reality is a hologram. It is a creation of consciousness. It's imbued with consciousness, so consciousness is in everything because it is all the aspects of it. But we are so much more than this hologram and this physical reality. We're consciousness that is beyond form. Now, that is also different than my original training was all about being in touch with energy and the unseen, and talk to guides and devas, talk to dead people, realizing that there's so much more of me than that manifests in physical form. So the big, huge paradigm shift that happened to me back in 2006 was to realize that there's actually something outside of the box, and that everything within this reality, including, aliens on other planets and solar systems and all that, is still within the story of the hologram. It's still within the game, the full immersion game that's being played here. And when I work with consciousness techniques, so the consciousness techniques make use of working as consciousness outside of time and space. And that's why the results are miraculous. I mentioned that we're consciousness coming more into form, consciousness creating this reality by focusing on it. And the huge shift is when we realize that we are that consciousness. We are that light. We are that greater awareness and wisdom that is coming into our bodies. And it's discovering that you are the cosmic internet, and that your body is actually your computer and that you are the user in this reality. And I'm questioning the term of computer too, because it's like your vehicle for this reality, but it's more like a horse, because horses have personality. So it's kind of like a horse that has a GPS system, and it is a creation of you as consciousness through your focusing into form. And this world is a full immersion game in that you are fully immersing into this game. So at one level, it's like your second life. You're playing with other users around the planet. But at this other level, that you are the programmer. And that's actually working at the level of thought. And then at a higher level, you are consciousness. And when you shift to operating as consciousness, it changes everything. And you realize that things are not happening to you. You are not powerless over that. And even if there seems to be a design, it's not predestined, but even if it seems that there are things unfolding in a certain way, you have an infinite amount of alternatives to play this game. And any step you have changes the direction that you're going. So the thing I have found is that when you start living this way, is that unusual things start to happen outside the box. And it feels like everyone else is still on script. You go to work every day and the people are still going on the script, but you get to improvise. Like the movie Office Space, and the guy gets hypnotized and shows up the next day at work wearing a Hawaiian shirt. You start to feel that feeling of being in a Hawaiian shirt as you're moving throughout your life. And it isn't, as I mentioned before, it isn't that this physical reality isn't real. And it's not accurate to say that it's an illusion. It's a feeling and sensing reality. It's supposed to be a physical reality for us to enjoy and experience this physical experience. But it's that time and space become malleable. So it becomes malleable in ways that we haven't perceived before. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you can start walking through walls unless you really want to do that. But it's more like the walls within your life change. And you can easily shift yourself from one level to another, and creating an entirely new experience and outcome. You can wirelessly anchor into this physical realm while maintaining your higher level awareness. And at this level, miracles are possible. And at this level, you are a miracle. All right, so I'm going to start talking about some specific techniques that you can use here. And I do want to let you know that the other thing, I mentioned the GPS. So we also, besides operating at the realm of thought, we have this computer within ourselves that it's like our GPS. It is the intellect part of ourselves. And if you just think like the computer in your car has important information about running your systems, and the GPS aspect, if you have that in your car or on your phone, you have a GPS that tells you where to go. But those GPSs are not infallible. They will take you downtown in the middle of rush hour if you are just going off the old settings. They will get you completely lost if they aren't upgraded to the new maps. So what happens as you start to shift, your mind will desperately try to redirect you back to your old way of doing things, back to the old programming, because that's the way that got you safely there the last time. There isn't a map for this new reality. And as consciousness, you don't need to exist within those limitations. I mean, GPSs are useful. Your mind machine is useful, but it's not useful when it starts to dictate your reality and your direction for you. So our minds will take us out of moving forward. It'll keep us struggling with the same issues. Our minds are really happy with the limitations, and we find ourselves on these hamster wheels. And so we'll be working on some core issues over and over and over again, and not finding any new results. It's this form of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, looking, expecting to create new results. So here's the way that you know that it's your mind machine and not you as consciousness. Is that if you are experiencing anything limiting or negating, that is it's your mind machine. The negative thoughts are coming from your mind machine. The negative thoughts are designed to distract you and reroute you back to the old way of doing things. And in order to break free from that, you need to put that in its place and keep going forward. It doesn't do any good to wrestle with those mind machines, because then they've succeeded in distracting you. I've been trying new techniques, so I did actually put mine on mute the other day. That worked really well. You can also send it on an errand. I worked with a woman once who was an artist, but she had worked in the corporate world before. So as an artist, she needed a lot of quiet time and reflective time in order to work with her creativity. But her type A personality would get up in the morning and want to fulfill this impossible to-do list. So what she did was she personified that. She realized that was her mind machine going crazy, and she gave it an assignment to go to, deepest, darkest Africa and calculate all the, broadleaf plants there or something like that. And that aspect of her disappeared and never came back. So there's an example of how to be able to go forward, recognizing that anything negating within you is your mind machine. And the part of you that is really excited about this information and really yearning to move forward, that is the essence of who you are. So when we shift to navigating life as consciousness, we feel effortless, it feels joyful, it feels expansive, it feels full of possibilities. And there is this sense of knowing that everything is very, very well. The other thing that I have discovered when I use the consciousness techniques is that there will be like an instant release of mental and emotional pain. It's hard to explain, and what I find is then immediately I want to create a system to do that. It's like, I want to bottle this. I want to create a system to do that. And that's actually not when it works. It's when I'm doing it sporadically, spontaneously, improvisationally. It shifts me in this broader experience where that pain is not a part of the reality. You have an access to your own knowingness and knowing how to respond in any moment. And just an internal sense of your own authority is that right? Seniority. Authority has this feeling of being over seniority within your own space. And an ownership within your own space of how to move forward in your life. So we've done enough talking. I'm going to take a moment here to give you one technique. If you've been to my meetups, you've learned about parallel universes, and parallel universe is a very powerful technique. And I'm going to reserve that for people coming to the meetups. There is a video for that as well. And it's actually in the course that I'll be mentioning. But the one that I wanted to share today, because I have a lot of people coming to this who've had experience with parallel universes, is I wanted to have you experience about wirelessly connecting in your form. Because we talked about this sense of feeling this internal power that's going on as consciousness comes into form. So being able to wirelessly connect into your form is incredibly potent. So wherever you are right now, is just take a moment to notice. Just take a moment to notice. Notice what is. You always start with a baseline of, okay, this is, I'm kind of sitting here. My stomach feels a little, I'm feeling a little tense in my back. It's kind of cold in this room, or, sitting in the car going, yeah, it feels kind of cramped and uncomfortable. Wherever you are, just take a moment to notice what you perceive. Now, be aware of an area in the lower part of your body, this lower part of your body where you're sitting. And think of it as your connecting port. Is that right? There's got to be a good term for it. I've been calling it an anchor point, which works in a certain way, but this is more about you as consciousness wirelessly connecting into your form. And I like to think of it like a laser point. To me, it comes up as a little dot of awareness or dot of light, I guess. So tune into having that. Have wirelessly connect as consciousness in form into that anchor point, that connecting port into your form. And notice what shifts or changes when you do that. Take a moment to just kind of look around. What does it feel like inside? What does it feel like outside? Now, people have different reactions to this. One reaction is your mind machine going, blah, 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 blah. So just put that on mute for a second and just tune in for yourself for the other more subtle awarenesses. Some people have talked about, I feel, I'm starting to feel kind of warm. Feel warm. Some people feel more of like a vibratory shift, sort of a series of waves. Some people feel a sense of visual clarity. It's like suddenly things become sharper and clearer around them. And if you are feeling like a welling up of energy, just let that start to fill up your entire physical form. But it is a little bit like your computer finally connecting to the internet. It's letting that information flood into your system. So the reason why this is really powerful and really important is that we have a tendency to go outside of ourselves to try to get the things that we want. We feel like we don't know anything, so we have to go outside ourselves to get that knowledge. We don't have the thing we want, we have to go outside ourselves to get the thing we want. What this does is this brings you into you. It's like in the old days, you needed to go to the library to get the book, to find the information. Now you've got the internet, you've got that information at your fingertips. When you connect as consciousness, you have that information within you. So another thing that happens with law of attraction, that people go, where's my stuff? Because they have, they visualize the thing, they put the description or the desire out to the universe. And then what happens is that they're not home for the universal parcel service to deliver it to them. they're trying to still go out and make it happen. They're trying to go out and find that thing. Or it's like ordering from the waiter and then following him into the kitchen. And we need to be home in our physical form for things to reorganize and manifest. So this anchoring in your body, you're wirelessly connecting into your body, your home. Now, the other part of this is that we feel like, oh, this is way too simple. It's not, this work is very subtle, but it's very profound. And reality reorganizes when we are within ourselves as consciousness. Oh, I've just remembered the part I was going to say. So here's the other thing about it, is that we're always going outside ourselves to get knowledge. We're always going outside ourselves. We feel like we have to go outside our form to spiritually evolve. And so we spend all our time doing things that knock ourselves out of our body. And then when we die, we realize that we were out of our body all along. I mean, we already are consciousness. We already are. And the whole point of having a form here is, the whole point of having a lifetime is to come into form. We can't fully experience reality without being in form. You can't have all the deliciousness of all there is without being in form. But the difference with wirelessly connecting in form is you get to have a 3D, 5D experience of this reality, which is so much more infinitely delicious than you could imagine. You get to have the deliciousness of reality without having the density of it. So I invite you just to play with that and to notice the shifts and changes. Because the other thing is, what you're initiating by playing with this right here and now is that you are setting in motion changes to happen that you will notice unfolding from beyond a day. I mean, people will report going, I didn't feel anything during the webinar, and then 3 days later, this happened. You are actually initiating very powerful change by listening and doing this. So just notice what's happening, notice what's unfolding with us. I'm going to add 2 more things to this that I wasn't actually initially planning, but just sort of tuning in to the whole is that okay. So simultaneously with having this anchor point in the lower part of your body, have a secondary anchor point into your heart. In your heart. Into is a direction. So imagine a second dot of light. And what happens when you've got both awarenesses? Because you can hold awareness in multiple places. What happens then? I'm laughing because I've had some people talk about how what this does is it wakes up all the points in their body. It wakes them up on multiple levels. And that's true. So you can allow those things to unfold. If something occurs to you to shift and change and do something slightly differently, go with it. Because that's you're getting in touch with the greater aspect of who you are. Okay. So I want to mention my course really quick for folks who want to get more. So like I mentioned earlier that, if you want to know more about this, I have this brand new total transformation course that has techniques like this. It includes parallel universes. It actually has, I think it adds up to about 48 techniques. It's 10 plus weeks long. It's 10 plus courses, lessons. And I have a self-coaching aspect of this now. So if you want to go just beyond kindergarten, or the antiquated techniques, like I now realize that all of the previous techniques that I've ever taught before are antiquated. They're like dial-up. And yes, they've been efficient. They were, they were in use since, the ancient Egyptians, but we're in a new space now. And these are upgraded techniques. So if you are longing to be more authentic in your life, if you are tired of feeling crazy with the way the world is today, if you find your old techniques aren't working anymore, and you want to manifest with effortless ease, and this self-coaching program is for you. So being on the call today, there is an additional option that you get with this that you don't normally get, and that is you get 2 private calls with me as well. You get the discovery session that helps you go into the course. So you get a private 30-minute discovery session, and then you also get 30 minutes with me on the end of it. You get a call with me on the end to help complete it. So otherwise, you're on your own. It's self-coaching. A lot of people, that's all they want, is they want self-coaching. And so that is, this course is, as I said, 10 weeks long. It is chock full of techniques like this. It's a very powerful system of transformation. The extra bonus for being on the call with me today is that I can help hold space for you at the very beginning and at the very end. You're also, as I've said, you were on your own, but you also have email support with us, so you can always email your questions. I take questions and I answer them for everybody once a week. So there's an aspect of accountability. So this isn't just a thing that you buy and don't do because you've got the beginning and the end calls with me. So it's something to take advantage of. And I have openings for discovery sessions starting next week, and you will get the first videos released right away after that. So there is a payment plan for this course, and the self-coaching aspect of it is $9.97, and there's a payment plan. There is a web page to go to that I will also email the link in the confirmation and the thank you for in the recording afterwards. It's bit.ly-ttade is the direction to the details for this course. And there's the group aspect for this course, which some people, it's like, yeah, I want that information, but I want a little bit more support. I want to be able to ask you more questions for it. So Total Transformation helps help you remember and discover who you essentially are and why you're here, how to live life from this perspective of consciousness. It has a practical application as well. So it's not just a bunch of woo, airy-fairy stuff, but these are things that you can actually implement in your daily life. They're tools and techniques to help you embody yourself as consciousness and give you traction to move forward. So if you've been having this feeling of just like spinning your wheels, this gives you traction to actually make change happen. That languaging. Changes happen. Making change happen. It allows change to happen. This empowers you to live your life as your greater self and integrate these 5D experiences into this 3D reality. And it allows you to be connected as consciousness at any moment, at every time during your day. And it's a sense of being able to effortlessly navigate life with a sense of mastery. And taking actions and making decisions as consciousness. Very, very different. So, and this is all online, and you can access this from anywhere you want, and you can access me from anywhere you want. So wherever you are in the country, you don't have to physically show up for this. And these are recorded techniques that you can watch over and over again. The group aspect of it comes with the private session at the beginning and the end, and also has monthly group calls that you can ask questions. Plus, there is the email accountability as well, the email opportunity for asking questions as well. And again, my discovery sessions are open for the next week, and then the videos start right after. And this is $19.94 for this. It actually ends up being about 12 weeks long, and there's a payment plan for that as well. And so that is, again, bit.ly backslash TTAD for that. And then the private coaching aspect for this. And so some people want, they want the videos, but they also want to just be working specifically with me. You might be working on an issue that you don't want brought up in a group. Totally understand that. And that will be designed personally for you. The private coaching allows you to go deep into the things that you want to work on and you want to transform. So it's private coaching and the training and the 12-week training. So it's held over this period of time, holding a bigger space for your transformation. The great thing about doing that is it really helps integrate these tools and techniques into your life, and you can see some really profound changes. I mean, changes are instantaneous, and it also helps hold space while these big changes are going on. So you get the benefits of being with this in a group situation, but you get the personalized attention as well. And again, this is accountability. So it's not just a thing you buy and you don't do, because I'm holding space for you there, and I'm there for you to talk to. So that is $21.97, which I tell you, man, that is half of how the courses that I have been offering for the last several years now, since I think 2014. That's actually half the price of the private coaching courses that I've been offering before. So there's also a payment plan for that. So it's bit.ly/TTAD. So after this, I'm going to send you an email with that link and with these details, and the recording also, so that you can listen to it again, because I invite you to listen to this recording over and over again, because each time you do, it'll bring the techniques more real for you. So right after this, just check your inbox for that confirmation. And I've lost my page to go back and connect with you guys again. There we go. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this for a Q&A, but I have been asked to, I've actually been asked to not record this part because of people's anonymity issues. I'm sorry for those listening to the recording. You might miss out, because the great thing about people's questions is that they might be ones you would have thought of asking as well. So I'm going to stop the recording now so I can start taking some people live. And thank you for listening to the call.